All right, welcome to episode 14 of Asset Creators. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite types of content to magnetize leads. So over the last 3.5 years, roughly, I've been creating, content online, primarily LinkedIn. I've dabbled in other places, but LinkedIn's been my main channel. And I've experimented with lots of different, frameworks, formats, all types of things with content. And obviously, if we're here and we're spending the time creating content on LinkedIn, we're spending all this time thinking about ideas and engaging with other people, we want to make sure that we're getting leads, we're growing our business, right? That's obviously the reason we're spending so much time doing it. So what we're going to talk about today is not just content, but how to magnetize leads and get people who you're selling to interested in what you have to offer and just you. All right? So it's going to be a good one, and we'll jump right into it. So as you can see here, we're going to start off with the AAA Framework, which is what we're going to be talking about today when it comes to the 3 favorite types of content that I have found to be the most effective in getting clients. So the AAA Framework works like this. It's very simple, okay? Every marketing and media piece I create is written from one of these 3 A's, okay? Except for my newsletter, because my newsletter, it actually has all 3. So it's longer form, so I can actually use all 3 within the one piece, and that's what makes it a real complete piece, right? So every time I write my weekly newsletter, I make sure that it has all 3, and they are authority, alignment, and authenticity. I'm gonna break each one down and give you examples. It's gonna be great. But for now, I just want you to understand that the reason that we're using these 3 is because I have found this fully rounds out your strategy to show your credibility. So your authority, okay, when you're building authority, you're going to show your credibility. And that isn't just testimonials and client results, right? That's going to be things like showing that you have expertise based off experience. So you're not just sharing content that could easily be ChatGPT'd or Googled, like how to do something very generic, right? It's going to come from experience, and it's going to really show that you're credible. The next reason is you're going to take firm stances. So that's what alignment is, okay? Alignment content is going to be sharing your values, your beliefs, your worldviews, and you're going to take firm stances on things, and you're going to start attracting people who have those similar beliefs, values, worldviews, okay? And then you're going to just be relatably human, which is sadly lacking so much online these days. A lot of people are focused just on authority, right? They can do no wrong. Everything's wins. Everything's a highlight reel. We all know that that's just not real life, and that's just not true. When you throw in the authenticity, right? Mistakes you've made, lessons you've learned, you can still share wins, right? But share your losses, things like that. People are going to see that you're more than just this guru or this authority you're trying to be. You're actually a real human, and that's relatable, and you're also going to attract clients that way. So to be clear, the reason I chose these 3 is because over the last 3.5 years, I've seriously experimented with so much different types of content, and I've found that these 3 are always the ones that get me leads. They get my ICP, target audience, dream client, whatever lingo you want to use, to follow me, to engage with my content, to inbound DM me, like, hey, one of my authority pieces of content might have a keyword, like DM me this word, and I'll send you X or whatever, right? Well, the authority content's great for that. But the alignment or authenticity content, I've had people, and I'll show you today, I'm going to share one of my stories. I'm going to give you examples of content that I've used for each of the A's. But for example, I talked about, struggling with alcohol in my 20s, okay? I've talked about how I lost my eye in an accident, okay? So I've had people reach out to me saying, either, hey, they've struggled with, alcohol, or their son did, or somebody they know did. And it's just me showing and being vulnerable, and it's starting conversations, and it's getting people to, relate to me. So that's the core overview of the AAA framework, okay? Those are the 3 A's, and these are the reasons that we're going to be using these 3. And if you just go look at my content on LinkedIn, I've been creating for years, and I've tested it all, okay? I've experimented with so much stuff. And once again, I'm just going to reiterate this, but it always came back to these three that were the content that performed the best. And when I say performed, I'm talking about leading to business conversations or somewhat business results. Not virality, not a bunch of likes from people who would never buy from me. Business results, warm leads. Cool? Let's get to it. So we're going to start with authority. Now, the goal with authority is to showcase your expertise, you have wisdom from experience, and you get your clients' results. That's the goal, okay? So things you can do is share client successes, insights from experience, emotionally relevant solutions. And I'm going to get into sort of what this means, but your target audience is going to have pains, problems, desires, right? So if you can give them emotionally relevant solutions to all of those, it's going to build a lot of authority with them. They're going to believe that you can solve their problems. And insights from experience, this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. You actually are able to teach them things based off you doing them, right? So you can see this a lot on LinkedIn. And honestly, I have no hate towards this because we all got to start somewhere. But you can tell when someone's newer into entrepreneurship and, they just read a book on something and they're just sharing what they learned. But instead of saying like, hey, I'm reading this book and here's what I learned, they're like acting like they're teaching it. And you can tell it's not coming from experience. It's something they just read in a book or something they just Googled, right? But when you can share it from experience, like tell a story about how you learned this, or you were on a call with a client and this happened, right? That's when you build that real authority. And it's not something you can just Google or search on ChatGPT, right? And then client successes, of course. You got to be showing people that you get your clients' results, that you are actually credible and an authority in your space, meaning people come to you, they work with you, they get results. So then some examples of specific types of content would be, case studies, questions you were asked on a call or in the DMs, solving a niche problem, pain, frustration. So this is kind of mapping to each of these. But, a really good one is if you have clients, record all the calls, take the transcripts, you can run it through AI and say, hey, like find me conversations out of this that position me as an authority. And you could even, say this, that showcase my expertise or show my wisdom, whatever. Case studies, you should always be sharing case studies, what you did for yourself or for clients, that results you got them. You should always be talking about that. So people start to associate you with results. Like, oh, if I go to this person, I will get results because they get people results. You want to be associated with results, of course. So here's a couple examples, 3 for this one that I really wanted to drive home. These are ones that I've wrote recently. So the first one was how I helped Rocky, let's zoom in a little bit. How I helped Rocky 9.9x her coaching income in only 10 months. So this is a case study, right? I'm literally breaking down exactly line for line how I helped Rocky do this, right? Even though she was taking action on what she learned. So Rocky tried on her own by following big creators' advice, taking courses, but she never got the results. Then Rocky came to me, right? I'm not going to read this whole thing right now, but I'm just showing you that I was doing a case study here, showing how I literally helped somebody, Rocky, 9.9x her coaching income in 10 months. And then I put a testimonial here. So this is an image of the review that she gave me. Now, one thing to note, you can see this didn't get much engagement, right? But these types of content or posts don't get nearly as much engagement. And that's okay, right? If you're sharing a win you got somebody, there's so many little nuances I could get into this. I don't want to make this a super technical writing episode. But you really want to make it about the person you helped, not you. Not, oh, look how great I am, I'm the best, right? You can see I'm using she, her, we language here. So it's not like, I'm the best. I'm positioning Rocky as the hero in this story, the transformation. So these types of content don't usually do so well because, it's clearly a result. It's pretty obvious to people that I'm kind of showing that, hey, I get people results. And so people can kind of tell that potentially maybe I'm selling, right? Which is just kind of the trade-off you're going to get with some of this authority content, okay? But there's an example of one. Another type is, I'll let you guess and then I'll tell you after which type this is. It's still authority, but which of the like subcategories you could call it. So a message to all solopreneurs: your business success and self-worth are not the same. It's far too common to confuse the two. So I'm just talking about how like you don't have to identify your worth, your everything with your success. They're not the same, okay? So this one is an emotionally relevant solution, right? It's a solve to a niche problem, pain, or frustration. I know a lot of solopreneurs, and myself included, have been caught in this trap of thinking that our business success determines our worth and how valuable we are as humans, which is just obviously not true. So that's what I was trying to do with that post. And then this one is, I added this one because I just did this not even a week ago, 5 days ago, and this got me like 11 newsletter signups, just one post, right? So I created a new assessment. Okay, so it's like a short quiz, takes like 2 minutes to do. And as you guys know, this is called asset creators, right? So we create assets. Now there are 3 core assets that every solopreneur has, who is high leverage, premium positioned, things like that, okay? Now, this isn't like a pitch for that quiz. I'm just announcing it here because it's a new value asset that I created. So I just announced it here. And, you can see some of the authority coming through here. After working with and coaching hundreds of solopreneurs over the last 3 years and generating almost $500,000 online. So this is me just showing some credibility. I've coached a lot of people. We've generated a lot of income, right? We've done these things. And this got me literally in 24 hours, like 11 newsletter signups. Okay. And this is an authority piece. I'm breaking down results I've gotten, talking about how solopreneurs are usually missing one of these assets. And so that's another way that you can do an authority piece. Awesome. So that's authority. And this should give you a lot of insights into ways that you can start, writing that type of content. So the second type is going to be alignment. And I touched on this briefly, but the goal with this is to write content around your beliefs, your values, and your worldview, okay? This will attract clients who are aligned with you and your business and people you actually want to work with. I can't stress this enough. And I've made the mistake in the past of working with people who, we weren't aligned in certain things and values and worldviews and beliefs around business in general. And so it was really tough. And of course, I had to let them go. And it was just tough. And I wasn't doing a good enough job of doing this type of content to attract them, okay? And so when you share your beliefs, your values, your worldviews, excuse me. Yeah, that's the best part about going live, eh? A sneeze comes and you can't edit it. So the best part about sharing those, besides just, attracting people that are aligned with you, is you become a little bit more polarizing, which is very, very, I don't want to say under talked about, because of course people talk about being polarizing, but it's underutilized. And even myself, I'll be honest, I could do a better job at being a little more polarizing and firm in some of my stances. And so when you write this content, it kind of forces you to plant a flag, to take a stance, take a position on something, right? Share an opinion, okay? And that's really important. So examples are going to be strong beliefs you have about your niche, core values you have about business, maybe beyond money, how you perceive and make decisions based on what you think is true, right? So this would be like your worldview, right? Like, how do you make decisions based on what you think is actually true in reality, in life, right? And keep in mind, these can be geared towards life as well. So your beliefs and values don't have to just be about business. They could be about life in general. Because once again, let's say, for example, you're working with a client who, I don't want to get political, but what I was going to say was, let's say you and one of your clients, you don't know this, but you're completely polarized on your maybe political views or something just as strong, right? You're some sort of social issue, right? Well, if you guys are opposed and at some point that comes to light, they might not want to work with you anymore, or you might not want to work with them, or whatever, right? Now, this isn't me saying go write political content. I'm just saying the more transparent you can be about your beliefs, values, and worldview, the more you're going to avoid attracting people who you might have future conflicts with in life and in business, okay? So that's all I'm trying to say there. So some examples of this. I'll open both of these. So here's a belief of mine, which, of course, is around assets and getting people to your owned asset, which, an example of that is your email list. So roughly 2 years ago, I had a small email list of around 250 people. So in this post, all I'm talking about is how I realized, I made 8 course sales in 24 hours on my birthday to a very small email list. And that's when I realized, holy, like having this owned asset, like an email list, is one of the most powerful things that I can do. Because if I just went on LinkedIn and I wrote a post about, hey, I'm doing a sale for my birthday, maybe I might get some signups, but there's a different relationship with people who are in your owned asset, like an email list, right? So my belief here, right? Before this, I thought cold outreach was the only way to reliably get in front of potential clients. I was wrong. So in this, I'm pretty much saying, hey, I used to do cold outreach. Now I think cold outreach is literally the worst thing you can do for your business. It's the lowest leverage, worst positioning, which is very true. And so this was like a belief I had about, and a belief shift about cold outreach, terrible. Getting people to a place you own, the goal is essentially what I was saying. So that was a belief that I had, okay? This is a value of mine. So the most powerful sales tool I own isn't a piece of software, it's relationships. One of my clients followed me for 8 months before he decided to work with me. Another one was on my email list for 3 months before she joined my program. So what I'm saying here is relationships. I'm showing you a value of mine. I really value relationships in business, and one of my business's core philosophies and core values is people over profits. The profits will come if you value your people and build relationships with them. So that's what I was sharing here, right? And then, of course, this is going to attract people who either agree with that, like that, things like that, right? So a couple examples there of some content that is alignment content. And then the third, to finish it off, is going to be authenticity. So the goal here is to share your story and personal things about you to show people you're human, right? But you want to always relate it back to them. So you can talk about yourself, but you still want to give some sort of lesson or takeaway for the reader at the end. And this type of content is going to make you more relatable than anything else, right? Kind of like we talked about in the beginning. We want to make sure that, people can see that we're human. We're not this fake guru. Like that saying, when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. You don't want to be this person who's trying to look overly polished online. Like, I'm not saying, share only your flaws. You can see I have wins in here, but, make it believable. We all know we're all human. Nobody's perfect. And so just show that side, show the mistakes, some of the losses, the lessons, turning points, things like that. So a couple examples here. This one's really simple. This one was just like a week or two ago that I wrote it 2 weeks ago. So yesterday morning, I went golfing with my brother and a friend. The crazy part is they asked me the night before with no notice. And so this post was me just kind of talking about, hey, I just went golfing and they asked me the night before and I was able to do it because I built my own business and I don't have a boss. And, I was able to do this and, life is good. Cheers to all my other solopreneurs doing the same. So this was just a post of like, hey, I did this thing, I was out here golfing. I was able to do it because of these reasons. And this is just an authenticity post. I put a little picture of the golf course right there. And so that is a good example of an authentic or authenticity post. And then another one, the final example I'm going to give you is this one. So 7 years ago, I had my right eye removed after a drunk accident. 6 years ago, I lost my job, my place, my girlfriend. So I'm kind of telling this story about my journey. And then, now I get to travel the world. Like this picture was in Colombia. I just got back a month ago from Colombia. I was there for 3 months. So I was writing this in Medellin and, telling like kind of how my life looks now. And this is just an authenticity, right? Not a lot of people want to admit that they were drinking every day or, maybe they lost their eye. They struggled with, alcohol. Like you know what? It's part of my story. It's part of my journey, and I share it. And, hopefully it can inspire somebody, even if they're not struggling with that, but, to just push through challenges. And so this story did really well. This type of content always performs better because people just love, you sharing parts of your story yourself that aren't just business. Like I said earlier, trying to be this perfect guru, right? So this type of content will always perform better in terms of engagement. But what you really want to look for, of course, is are your ideal clients engaging, right? Are your followers you're getting from it, potential clients, things like that. So those are just some examples so you can actually see what I'm talking about and not just, the theory behind it. And so that's the AAA framework. Authority, alignment, authenticity. Those are my three favorite types of content to magnetize leads. And I just wanted to throw this in as like a little bonus for you because I think it's really important. This is like crucial advice I got from Alex Hormozi's $100 Million Leads, his book, okay? So he says, every piece of content must be written from a place of personal experience or real life. So you want to write from either your far past, your recent past, or the present moment. So far past would be like, that story I just showed you. 7 years ago, I was, lost my eye, whatever. Recent past, like, hey, last week I was on a call. Present is like, hey, I'm doing this thing right now. Something like that, okay? The quote from the book is this: there's only one of you. The easiest way to differentiate is to say something no one else can say, and no one else has lived your life but you. Life happens, profit by sharing yours. Now, I can't stress how important this is nowadays with AI content everywhere. This isn't a debate on is AI content good or bad or whatever. Like, it's here, and it's not going anywhere. We all know this, okay? So, if you are literally just writing about your life, what's happening, what happened in the past, what happened recently, what happened now, your content will be irreplaceable. Nobody will be able to copy your content because it's your life and you're sharing your experience, okay? So each one of these A's, I always write from personal experience. Even if you go back and watch the recording again and you look at the content that I wrote there, each one had like a story or some sort of personal experience of mine in it, okay? And that's what's really important. And I think this is so, so valuable. This just makes each of these A's even stronger. And he does in the book have two more, which are trending and manufactured. So you write about, things that are trending, but your experience with them. And manufactured is like, hey, I quit drinking for 30 days. Here's what happened, right? So you're manufacturing a result. I didn't include them here because, most people aren't doing that type of content. Also, trending stuff is, you don't really want to build your brand or business around trends because they just come and they go. And then the manufactured content, it's just really hard to do because you have to always be like doing something new. So I figured these three were the most accessible and sustainable for anyone who's watching this. But yeah, just a great little cherry on top to make each of these A's even stronger is just write them from experience. Cool. Well, that is it for today. I really wanted to cover those because if you're watching this, I know this will help you. Even, if you may not be convinced yet on the AAAs, okay? Just try it. Just for the next 3 days, write one of each. So tomorrow, write an authority piece. Watch this video when you write it so you can get the ideas. The alignment piece, do the same thing, right? Just try writing one, okay? And the same thing with authenticity. Just write one, see how it does. Like, it's too easy to look at something like this that's different maybe than what you're doing and say, oh, that won't work, or just try it, right? If it doesn't work for you, no worries. But I have found for myself, all of my clients over the last 3.5 years, these three work the best. They're the most reliable, the most consistent in bringing you in people who are interested in what you do, interested in you and what you sell, like how you can help them, right? So it's a well-rounded approach, like I already said. But thanks so much for being here. This is episode 14, so I'm pretty excited. I'm 14 episodes deep now, so we're really doing this, and I'm learning a lot as I'm building this show out as well, and it's cool going live. So, we'll see where it goes. But other than that, thanks so much for being here, and I will see you on the next episode.